Well, some days I thank God for lawyers, but today I'm thanking God for women. We have made progress in the past 100 years. Real quick, I'd just like to point out the timeline that's in your packet. I don't know if we've mentioned it yet today. This timeline that attempts to capture 100 years of Athabascan advocacy and really important events that have shaped who we are today. This timeline was developed with our children really in mind. I encourage you all to study this timeline, sit down with your children and your grandchildren and go over these events and tell them how it impacted you individually as families, as communities and tribes, because that's where we'll really start to get our children involved and engaged in the new policies going forward. I'd really like to thank all the TCC staff and the tribal leaders that were involved in development of this timeline, including Doyon. Victor asked that I give a brief update over all of our advocacy efforts at TCC this past year and what we expect for this next year. And I told him that it really can't be brief because we do a lot at Tanana Chiefs Conference, and I'd like to thank all of the staff in all of the departments, tribal client services, health services, and administration. Really, these people, tribal and non-tribal, are working on a daily basis on the behalf of our communities, and their hearts are really for the people. So thank you to the staff. You'll find in your packets this July 2015 advocacy update, which kind of highlights and captures some of the important issues we're dealing with today. And I'll just go over a few. You can all read them on your own time. But advocacy for Tanana Chiefs, for our tribes, is very diverse. It can be grassroots, it could be lobbying, submitting formal comments to the feds, to the state. It could be my favorite, litigation. But advocacy has shaped who we are and will continue to shape who we are. Currently, we have been closely watching Congress and the state of Alaska on how they are dealing with the land into trust issues. Now, some of you are all aware in 2013, Chalkitsik, our own very tribe, along with Akiachak, won in U.S. District Court. They won. The district court there found that the Secretary of Interior has the authority to take land into trust for Alaska tribes. Now, of course, the state of Alaska has appealed that decision. The court has granted a stay, which is a delay in the case, and we expect the state to file this month. Now, my message on land into trust today is very simple. Land into trust for the state of Alaska, for our tribes and Indian country, is nothing to fear. It is something we should embrace. It is a tool that potentially could be used if the tribe so choose that it's the best interest of their community. We look forward to working with our partners at Doyon and the state of Alaska, the other interested parties, on progress on these efforts. We're also closely watching Senate Indian Affairs as they have a land into trust hearing just this week. Now, our chiefs of 1915 talked a lot about lands protection at the time with Judge Wickersham. At Tanana Chiefs Conference, we do a lot to continue the Chiefs' work in lands protection. The Realty Division of Tribal Client Services is working every single day, from allotment protection to pursuing the federal Veterans Allotment Bill. They are also very engaged in state and federal land use plans. Now I ask that you take a look at your packets, because we have an issue that we're working on currently. It's the Eastern Interior Land Use Plan for BLM. There's a proposed resolution in your packet that tribes are encouraged to consider. And if we could put on the screen the map in which the Drainjic Working Group has been working on the past 8 years. Chalkitsik and Fort Yukon has taken this effort on themselves, and Tanana Chiefs Conference has come in the past few years to help in their efforts. We expect a final plan here released in October, but we're still very concerned that the Drainjic River, formerly known as the Black River, will not be protected in the BLM management plan. Now, we have to do work in the next few months to see that it remains protected for subsistence activities, hunting and fishing activities, but as well as for precious salmon spawning grounds. I don't know if we have the PowerPoint up there with the map, but they're gonna post the land that we seek to protect, which borders Canada and is up east of Fort Yukon. But really, it's very important to become engaged and inform yourself of these land use plans, because the feds are going from east to west across the state, and now BLM has been working for the past few years on the central management plan, which will impact Caltag to Nenana, to Tanana, Evansville, Allakaket. All of you tribes need to become engaged on this, and Tanana Chiefs Conference will be there to assist you. You'll see that in the red, this is the land that the tribes, Chalkitsik and Fort Yukon, seek to protect. Please, we ask that you help them in their efforts. Take this proposed resolution back to your tribal council members and return them signed to the legal department at Tanana Chiefs Conference so we can forward them on to the necessary people. Thank you. Thank you, Steve, for reporting on all the great work the task force has been doing this year at Tanana Chiefs Conference. I would just like to thank our donors who've been funding this process. Joyon is our main donor, along with Nenana, Allakaket, Kayakuk, Huslia, and we're really encouraging other tribes to contribute, and not only contribute with funding, but really become engaged in the process. What we're trying to do is break down the natural resources management regime in the state of Alaska. We can use the tools that are already there and available to us, but we need to do it in a unified manner. I think a lot of the tactics used by Judge Wickersham and the other feds of 1915, the scare tactics, are still used today, sometimes at these boards, at these RAC meetings, at the Federal Subsistence Board, at the advisory councils for our state. These fear tactics are still used. Our Native people go to these meetings, and others who oppose our interests try to confuse us or make us act like we don't know what we're doing. But if you attend these trainings, you'll understand clearly how we can use our voices to impact those regulations that are affecting our hunting and fishing rights. So A few issues that were not in front of our chiefs of 1915 was public safety and behavioral health in general. Now in 1915, our chiefs and our tribes asserted their jurisdiction over their lands. Basically, they had criminal jurisdiction. Their traditional courts were intact. When an issue came up, they took care of it. We have been stripped of this rights as tribal governments, and because of that, we have a lot of public safety concerns in the state of Alaska for our rural communities. I'd like to thank Senator Coghill for all his efforts to address this in his work. We work in partnership with his office on proposals and fixes to the criminal justice system in Alaska. So thank you, Senator, if you're still here. A lot of times, our own staff and tribes sometimes don't know what we do for advocacy in the state. And a big push this spring was addressing the Alaska Supreme Court's Tanunic case. The Alaska Supreme Court in that case erroneously held that in order for family members to get an equal priority, they'd have to formally file for adoption in the state courts. And that would require, of course, services from an attorney, which are very expensive. Tanana Chiefs was able to unite all of the nonprofits in the state of Alaska on this one issue. We were able to speak with Governor Walker and his administration, and they approved an emergency regulation to fix this issue. They also filed a proposed bill, which unfortunately wasn't passed, but we really hope to get that bill passed this session. So we really thank the other nonprofits for their work towards child protection. On the state, in addition, on stateside issues, we all should be very, very concerned about the state budget. You've all read in the news what hard times are coming down, but what's really going to be impacted is education. Now, this is a time to unify on education. We're going to have to hold the elected leaders' feet to the fire on the constitutional mandates to provide quality education to rural children. TCC was able to join with AVCP, Coeric, and Bristol Bay Native Association this year in a coalition on stateside issues. And we hope to continue that coalition, expand it, as we know education for rural children is at risk in the next few years because of the state budget crisis. Finally, an issue that our chiefs didn't bring up because, of course, Alaska wasn't a state and our territory was supposedly U.S. territory, was voting rights. Voting is the single most important thing we can do as a people to advocate for our communities, our tribes, our families, and children. The question I ask is, what would the 1915 chiefs think of our poor voter turnout today? Knowing this is a tool we can use to shape policy, I think they would be disappointed. That's why Tanana Chiefs is taking the next step forward in the pursuit of Alaska Native engagement in our policies. We hope to hire a government relations position that will seek to get out the Native vote in a way that hasn't been approached before. We hope to engage all of the TCC staff in the hopes that we will get, that will bleed out into the Native community. And really we're talking about Fairbanks because all the villages do an excellent job of voting. So thank you for that. Again, this is just a highlight of some of the issues that we're working on today. I really encourage you to look at the 100-year timeline with your children, to look at all the advocacy that has shaped our lives. Look at the update today, get involved, and please, anytime you have the chance, talk about the importance of voting to your family and friends. Thank you.